There's a unique kind of satisfaction, isn't there, in watching something from the very beginning, right to the absolute end.
Mm.
That feeling of completion, seeing, a full life cycle unfold.
Yeah, definitely. We talk a lot about gardening for the harvest, right? What we can use.
Right.
But today, we're digging into something deeper, the whole reproductive journey.
Exactly. And for someone who gardens, getting that full seed-to-seed cycle, that's moving from just, like, growing stuff to real mastery.
It really is. And our source today, it's quite personal. It comes from an amateur gardener's own notes. Specifically, notes on gardening, part 323,
Ah, yes.
just published October 8th, 2024.
Right. So our mission today really is to take this gardener's experience with a pretty common herb basil and use it as a kind of masterclass for you listening.
Mm-hmm.
We'll look at the biology, sure, but maybe more importantly, we're pulling out a very specific, actionable process, something tested that you can use to save your own basil seeds.
Like a shortcut to being more self-sufficient in the garden.
Exactly that, giving you the shortcut.
And what really jumps out from these notes is the why, the motivation.
Yeah.
This gardener, they weren't really tracking, like, how many pounds of basil they got. They were tracking the satisfaction. The big reward, they wrote, was just witnessing that entire life cycle, from the seed sprouting, growing up, flowering, and then making its own seeds.
Closing the loop.
Closing that biological loop, yeah. It's profound, really.
Okay, so let's unpack this seed-to-seed thing.
Yeah.
Because even for someone who's been gardening a while, it's not like a given, is it? It's a real achievement.
Oh, absolutely. It's a significant milestone. It signals a real shift in how you think about gardening.
How so?
Well, think about it. When you buy a little seedling or maybe a packet of those F1 hybrid seeds from the store, you're basically a consumer, right?
Buying inputs.
Exactly. But when you successfully grow a plant that gives you viable seeds for the next generation, now you're a producer. You've achieved a measure of self-sufficiency. You're not totally reliant on buying new seeds or plants every single year.
And reading these notes, you really get a sense of what an achievement it is. This gardener isn't listing, like, dozens of plants they've done this with.
No, not at all.
They're very clear. So far, in their whole gardening journey, only 2 species have made it all the way through this cycle.
Yep. Portulaca and Basil. That's it.
Wow. That says a lot, doesn't it?
Uh-huh.
About maybe how tricky it can be, even with plants we think of as common.
It does. I mean, Portulaca and Basil, they generally tend to be open-pollinated. Meaning they usually produce seeds that grow into plants similar to the parent. They breed true, mostly, assuming you don't have, like, tons of weird cross-pollination happening nearby.
Okay.
So the fact that they succeeded here means the gardener really managed everything well. The environment, pests, the timing, making sure the plant could actually finish its life's work, so to speak.
So Portulaca and Basil, those are the wins. They nailed it. And, success often leads to more ambition, right?
It usually does.
The notes immediately talk about what's next. They've got this blueprint now from Basil, and they want to try it with other plants. Specifically, they name mint.
Mint.
Which sounds to me like, okay, they're ready to level up.
They absolutely are. And that's where, botanically speaking, things get a bit more complex, which is a really useful insight for anyone listening.
Right.
Wanting to move to mint shows that the basic idea of seed saving, the general process they learned from Basil, feels transferable now. They get it.
But mint's harder.
But mint, yeah, it presents a much bigger challenge.
Really? Mint seems to grow everywhere, like weeds sometimes. What makes saving its seeds harder than basil?
It mostly comes down to genetics and viability. A lot of the mint varieties you buy, especially from nurseries, they might be sterile hybrids, meaning even if you manage to collect seeds, they just might not sprout. Or if they do, they might not resemble the parent plant at all. They could revert to one of the original parent types.
So they don't breed true, like you said, with the open-pollinated ones.
Exactly. That's often a characteristic of F1 hybrids or specially bred cultivars. So getting viable true breeding seeds from mint, that takes more specific knowledge. Real plant husbandry skills. You need to know how to select the right variety, maybe isolate it, ensure it's genetically stable. It's a different league, botanically speaking.
That makes sense. That step up from a fairly predictable plant like open-pollinated basil
Mm-hmm.
to something potentially complex like mint. That's the learning curve right there.
It really is. They're taking what they learned from basil and applying it to a genuinely tougher target. It's ambitious.
Okay, which brings us to the really practical bit for anyone wanting to try this.
Yeah.
Let's say with basil, since that's our case study. You've grown it, enjoyed the leaves,
Mm-hmm.
but now you want seeds for next year. You have to commit. How do you know that exact moment? When do you stop picking leaves and say, okay, now it's seed time?
Right, because timing is everything here. The gardener's notes give some really clear visual cues.
Right.
Get it wrong. Harvest too early, the seeds won't be viable, they'll be light and useless.
Right.
Harvest too late, the pods might shatter and poof! There go all your seeds scattered everywhere.
Okay, so what are the key signs? The notes mentioned two. Right.
Two main things to look for. First, and this is pretty obvious, the plant has to have finished flowering. All those little flower spikes should be done.
Done flowering, got it.
That means the plant isn't putting energy into attracting bees anymore. And second, also very visible, some of the lower leaves on the plant need to have started turning brown, maybe shriveling a bit.
The browning leaves, that's the signal the plant's winding down.
Precisely. It's the plant showing signs of natural decline. The technical term is senescence.
Senescence, okay.
It basically means the plant's done its main reproductive job. Energy and moisture are shifting away from the leaves and stems and going into finishing off those seeds.
So finished flowers plus some brown leaves,
Mm-hmm.
that means the pods are maturing.
That's your cue. The seeds inside those pods are entering their final stage.
Okay, so we know when. Now, the how. The notes lay out a clear four-step process. But hang on, before step one, why not just chop the whole basil stalk off and hang it up to dry? Seems easier. Why be so specific?
Yeah, that's a good question. It gets to the efficiency this gardener figured out. I mean, you could dry the whole stalk, probably.
Right.
But the notes specify the best way to get the most viable seeds. See, seeds mature kind of sequentially on the stalk, the ones at the tips from the earliest flowers. They're usually the most mature, the heaviest, the best quality. So by just cutting the pods at the tips, you're targeting the prime real estate, the highest concentration of good, viable seeds. And you avoid drying a bunch of extra stem and leaf material you don't need.
Right, quality over just quantity of material. Makes sense. Okay, so step one, cut the pods, but only at the tips.
Correct. Then comes step two, which is absolutely critical for saving seeds long term. Let those cut pods dry. Properly dry.
And the notes give a time frame here.
They do, but with some necessary wiggle room. It says a few days or weeks.
That's quite a range, isn't it? A few days, or potentially weeks. How does someone know?
Well, that depends entirely on your climate, your humidity specifically. And that's the kind of nuance a gardener learns,
Right.
If you live somewhere really dry, maybe Arizona, a few days spread out on a screen might be plenty. But if you're somewhere humid, like Florida in the summer,
Yeah.
you'll likely need those few weeks to get them properly dry. This step is all about preventing the #1 enemy of saved seeds.
Moisture?
Mold.
Mold, fungus, yeah. If they're stored even slightly damp, they'll just rot. Your germination rate next year will be terrible, maybe 0.
So this drying step, it's kind of like taking control back from the environment to guarantee the future.
That's a great way to put it. It's the crucial preservation step. You wait until they're completely dry, like they feel brittle. Maybe they'd shatter if you crush them.
Okay, fully dry. Then what?
Then you move to step 3,
Yeah.
actually getting the seeds out of the pods.
Right, the fiddly bit. Shaking them out, rubbing the pods gently. Exactly. Sometimes people use screens or sifters to separate the tiny black seeds from the chaff, the dried pod bits.
Okay. And once you have those little seeds,
That leads to the final step, step 4, storing them properly for next year.
and this is where that whole control idea really culminates, isn't it?
It is. You started out maybe just buying basil, using it.
Being a consumer, what you said.
Right. And now, through this process, you've become an active participant in its future. You've closed that feedback loop yourself.
Yeah.
And the notes on storage, they're brief, but the implication is quality storage. It's not just checking them in a junk drawer.
Yeah.
It's about making sure that genetic potential, that successful cycle, is actually preserved until you need it again.
So for someone listening, what does proper storage look like?
Think cool, dry, and dark. That's the mantra. Use an airtight container, a small jar, an envelope inside a sealed bag, label it clearly with the plant type and the date you harvested,
Good tip.
and keep it somewhere consistently cool and dark, not like on a sunny windowsill or near the oven.
Right, so you ensure that all that effort and the knowledge you gained this season is actually ready to go next spring.
Exactly. That ability to carry over both the seeds and the practical know-how from one year to the next, that's a really high level of gardening skill.
It feels like it moves beyond just growing food into something more like stewardship, preserving that continuity.
Well said. Stewardship is a good word for it.
Mm.
And speaking of continuity, remember the gardener mentioning wanting to tackle mint next?
Yeah.
They're building on this basil success. It shows they feel ready for that next level, that increased botanical complexity we talked about.
Right. They've got the foundation now.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so maybe a final thought here for people to chew on, building on this whole idea of replication and preservation. If the sort of goal of any living thing is to survive and make more of itself,
Yeah, fundamentally.
what does this need for us, the gardeners, to step in and do this artificial storage step, this pausing of the life cycle, until we decide conditions are right again? What does that tell us about how plants themselves, maybe even nature broadly, is geared towards like long-term planning, ensuring the journey can start again?
That interplay between the plant's innate drive and our necessary intervention for preservation.
Yeah, that's a fascinating thought. Planning baked right in, but needing a helping hand sometimes.
Something to think about, anyway. Thank you so much for sharing these notes and walking us through this. It's been a great deep dive into achieving that seed-to-seed success.
My pleasure.
Hopefully those 4 steps help you make your next basil harvest a success and maybe your garden a little more autonomous next season.